Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
8:37, Brian Neiman, Jonah Goldberg from National Review in this morning. Pleased to be joined by Larry Kudlow, as he's always here Tuesday mornings about 8:36. Morning, Larry. How are you?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Jonah.
Hey, Larry. We've been talking a lot about Libya, obviously, and I want to get your take on that. But the economy is still a huge issue, especially in this country, and it's going to be a huge issue for politics moving forward. How do you think the Republicans are doing on the economic front of, dictating exactly what the country should be doing as far as a recovery?
Mediocre. Mediocre. I mean, we've had a lot of talk up here. We had a Reagan conference last week. We had a big Tim Pawlenty meeting, the American Spectator dinner last night where the subject came up. Look, I think the Republicans have the story partly right with respect to lower spending and limiting government. But I don't think they have a real economic growth story. They're not emphasizing tax rate incentives for individuals and for businesses. They're not emphasizing pro-growth tax reform. They're not emphasizing regulatory rollback and reduction, which is another form of a business tax. And they're not spending enough time on the dollar depreciation policies of the Fed, which may be the single biggest villain in this story. Yesterday we saw the consumer spending numbers. Real wages fell, inflation rose, the economy is slowing down in the first quarter. So I think the GOP has part of the story right, that's all.
We had your friend Steve Moore on from the Wall Street Journal on a couple of days ago, and I made the point to him, this is what I think, it upsets me because I hear Republicans often talk down the economy right now, and I feel like they're doing that because President Obama is in the office. Instead of talking it down, shouldn't they be trying to take credit for the recovery that we've seen in the last couple of months? Because, look, the stock market is up largely because, well, Republicans got elected in November of 2010, and there's a belief that they'll be able to stop some of the policies that the administration was pushing. Instead of talking down the economy, shouldn't Republicans try to be taking credit for what is happening and saying, hey, if we continue with our ways, it'll be even better?
Well, I don't know. I don't think Republicans or Democrats should have a political lens on the economy. I mean, I prefer objective viewpoints, to be honest with you. I think the economy is muddling along. 3% growth. This is a very soft economic recovery. From time to time, I've had higher hopes for it, but they never seem to pan out. And I think you have some big issues here. The inflation policies of the Fed is a tax on consumer spending. It's a tax on corporate profits. Look, I don't think the economy is booming. I don't think the GOP election last November is enough time to have made much of a difference on the economy. I do think extending the tax cuts was a good idea, but I don't think a dollar depreciation, which has jacked up the price of gold and oil, is a good idea, or the price of food is a good idea. So, I have to give the GOP partial positive grade, but that's all. I don't think they have a really strong economic growth message. I don't think they're playing out of the Reagan playbook, and I think that's a problem. I think it's too austere. Hey, Jonah.
I agree with you. I think, I'm all for massive spending cuts and budget fixing and all of the rest, but at the same time, it can't just be eat your spinach.
Right.
But it seems to me that one of the problems, even though I think I'm on the exact same page as you about what the ideal tax regime should be, the problem is that there's been a messaging problem for Republicans that all they care about is tax cuts. And it seems to me that one way to get around that is, we had Steve Hayward on here earlier talking about energy policy. We have literally trillions of dollars of energy untapped in the United States that can't be, that the jobs, if we're getting it, can't be exported overseas, that go straight to our coffers, that lower our costs and would be a true stimulus with substance behind it, improve the trade deficit and everything else.
I love that stuff.
Why can't Republicans get out in front of that?
That should be part of this sort of umbrella growth message. You're exactly right. I like that a lot. Deregulate energy. Drill, drill, drill. It's a huge fuel creator, it's a huge power creator, and it's a huge job creator. You're exactly right. I mean, what I'm saying is a good growth message for the GOP should cover all these points. You can tick them off. Limit government, yes. Tax overhaul for growth incentives. Regulatory reform, energy reform, monetary currency reform. You should tick them off. That we should use all of those things. And I'm a little worried, coming back to Brian's first point, that with the exceptions, Eric Cantor gave a very good speech. Majority Leader Cantor gave a very good speech on a growth agenda last week. That was really good. And, I interviewed Tim Pawlenty last night, and as I said, he came to the American Spectator dinner. I think he's developing one. But it has to be fleshed out. Otherwise, Jonah, you're in the position of sort of root canal without Novocaine. That's the way I like to express that. If it's just spending and entitlement cuts, that doesn't help the average family, in mainstream middle America. But your point on energy should definitely be part of this story, no question about it. And you just need a more coherent messaging. You're not going to get all this stuff through. It's just a question of what's the GOP really stand for. How do you signal that to the voters and taxpayers?
So, switching gears a little bit, what did you think of last night, Obama's speech on Libya?
Well, I don't know what I think about this. I mean, I don't understand. I do understand he wants a limited incursion, but I guess if you're gonna try to slay the king, you better kill him. If you don't, if you're saying you're not going to go, the goal is never regime change. We're not going to broaden the mission. Maybe we shouldn't have had the mission in the first place.
Right. What is it Napoleon said? If you're going to take Vienna, take Vienna.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so I don't really want, I have a mixed view all along of this Libyan business, okay? I just have a mixed view. I'm not as hawkish as some of my friends. I'm not as dovish as others. I've never understood who the rebels are to this day. I don't know who they are. On the other hand, I'm a pro-democracy guy, so maybe there's a bigger cause here that I don't see. So I kind of kept my nose clean in this Libyan battle.
Right.
I can say oil prices have fallen slightly in overnight trading, so that's all right.
Larry, before I let you go, I know you always have your ear to the ground when it comes to the budgets. What are you hearing? There apparently was maybe a deal between Democrats and Republican leadership, and the Tea Party wing of the Republicans say it's not enough. What are you hearing on the budget battle?
No. I grow so weary of the budget battle. Look, I think they have to fight like hell, okay? I think the Republicans have to just try to get every nickel they can get. There's no question about that. And I don't think they should fence around. Do whatever you can do. Get it. Try. If you can get $61 billion in 2011, get $61 billion. Force the Democrats to cut spending. But my warning is this. Unemployment is still high. Inflation is rising with gasoline and food prices. So budget cutting is not the only policy to grow the economy. It has to be a more balanced message. And I think John Boehner gets that. I interviewed him last week or whatever it was 2 weeks ago. Eric Cantor gave a good speech on that. I'm not really hearing it yet, Jonah, from the presidential candidates, what I call a real growth. We got to grow this economy at 5% a year. And that, by the way, will help lower the deficit and lower the debt. It'll also lower unemployment. I mean, it's insane. The economy has grown in the last 10 years 1.7% at an annual rate, while the U.S. dollar has lost a third of its value and the stock market is down in real inflation-adjusted terms. So there is not an enormous amount of prosperity. This is a very weak, light, soft economic recovery from a very bad recession. So gee whiz, we got to grow. That's the American focus. That's all I want.
Sounds good, Larry. As always, we appreciate your time.
All right, fellas.
Larry Kudlow, CNBC host, Kudlow Report, 7 o'clock on CNBC. You can also hear him weekdays, or weekends, I should say, Saturday nights, 7 o'clock right here on 630 W.